Hello, friends! Welcome to this week's episode of One Last Thing Before Bed. I recently made a friend at my favorite coffee shop here in my city, and that friend turns out to be the barista there. So we have had many interesting conversations, It's always really interesting to speak to a fellow human being and to see what kind of experiences they have had and to compare that to your experiences as a human as well. One of the things we both have very clear is that we cannot save our parents. As we become adults, we want to fix our parents' issues, their health, finances, relationships, pain, and unhappiness. But ultimately, they are human beings, just like me, just like you, and they are autonomous, meaning they make their own decisions. Sure, you can support them, encourage them, or help them, but only if they want or can receive that help. And it should never, ever be at the cost of your own happiness and peace. A little bit of background on myself. I grew up in a dysfunctional family, not in an economical sense, because my material needs were always covered. However, my parents were very absent and volatile. They were always working, and when they were not working and they were at home, I had to tiptoe around them to make sure they were not in a bad mood and to choose my words carefully so I wouldn't disturb their peace or annoy them. I assigned myself the role of taking care of my parents very early on in my childhood. Now, not being a kid anymore, I know that responsibility, that role that I assigned to myself so many years ago, does not belong to me. It is not my duty to save my parents, and even if I tried, I wouldn't be able to. There are parts of another person's life that no one else can control. Their decisions, habits, struggles, their journey as human beings. You can influence those things, but you cannot change them. And I know it is so frustrating and it hurts because they are your parents and you want to help them get better because you know they can get better. But accepting that you cannot help them, accepting those limits, isn't about giving up on them. It's about recognizing that your well-being and peace matter too. In fact, if you ask me, they should be your number one priority in your life. But you do what you gotta do. I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life. You cannot save your parents. They are not your responsibility. They have to save themselves. They are not your kids. They are your parents. Don't assign yourself contradictory roles because that's where friction starts to appear. That's what I've noticed with my own family. When the children have to act as parental figures and the parents are the ones being taken care of, that's when problems appear. In ideal circumstances, they should be taking care of you. They should be worried about your health. They should be there for you always because they are your parents. Not the other way around. And by the way, being a parent is just not a title you bestow on someone just because they gave birth to you. I know people whose biological parents shouldn't be allowed the privilege of being called mom or dad. They didn't earn the title of being a parent. Let me tell you something. Your parents are not above the laws of human behavior. Did you know the saying, you can lead a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink? Same thing happens to parents and to people in general. You cannot force people to change. They will only change if they want to. Your parents will only change if they want to. Will only be saved if they want to be saved. You can tell them 1,000 times how amazing it is to go to therapy, how amazing it is to work on your mental health, how much happier you are, how they should be less judgmental, how they should love properly. All these things you can tell them, but it's never going to matter. And I'm saying this because I used to do it back in the day with my own parents, but I quit after realizing that it wasn't gonna work, ever. My words were falling on deaf ears. I am guilty of trying so hard to make them open their eyes, jumping up and down, trying to grab their attention, very sadly, and then not as sadly anymore. I whisper the answers and then I scream and please open your eyes. And my darling, this right here is costing you your life. You are paying a very high price, which is your peace and your well-being. That's a currency you never get back. As frustrating as it might sound, you cannot save your parents. But I think the best thing we can do as their children is to not become them, to try and break the cycle they passed on to us. That's everything from me for today. I hope you have an amazing week. I think I'm gonna be moving my videos, maybe Sundays. I'm not sure yet. I think it would be nicer to just say goodbye and welcome a new week if it's on a Sunday. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.